Okay, good evening, everyone. This is Dr. Mahesh Veluswamy here, and I thank you all, and I thank Mr. Chetan for joining this evening. And today he'll be handling with installation of Linux and virtual machine, and it will be like a short hands-on session. And before moving to the main slides, I would like to give some important notes for the participants. So, Chetan, can you move to the next slide? So, the first one would be kindly switch off your webcam for better buffering. Then you'll be always in mute mode, so you could ask your or you could drop your questions either via chat box or you could use raise hand option. And for any discussion, please your original name and the most important request, please try to in the meeting and try your best not to leave the meeting before it ends. And also don't forget to give us your feedback after the talk via Telegram voting. Okay, so Chetan, it's a good way to start. So happy
Yes, thank
teaching
you.
and for students, happy learning. Ale, see you. Ale, let's start.
Yes, thank you. Yes, thank you, Dr. Mahesh.
Yeah.
So, everyone, my name is Chetan. I'm based out of Pune. I've completed my master's, and after that, I've done CDAC and currently working in IT organization. I've been working with Linux for more than 6 to 7 years. I have working hands-on experience, and although I use at very basic end, but I do have quite good familiarity with Linux operating system. So today it's gonna be only a simple installation. So let's get started with this. Okay, so main two prerequisite before we can start. First one is VirtualBox or VMware Player. These are the two virtualization softwares which will help you create a virtual machine. If you directly want to install Ubuntu or any operating system onto your laptop or desktop directly, then you need to download its ISO image, and the second software will be Rufus. I found this software pretty fast, so you can make a bootable pen drive with this particular software, and it will simply create a bootable pen drive, and you can use that for installation of Linux, specifically for hardware. For VMware, we don't require that. We just need a virtual machine who can run a virtual box, or VMware player who can run our virtual machine, and the second one is ISO. So let's make a new machine. It's a machine, new, give it a name. I'll be giving Ubuntu 18, although it is by default selected as Linux and Ubuntu, but I'll make it as other Linux. A minimum RAM I would recommend is at least 1024. I recommended is 2048, I believe. Let's try to create. These days, usually 40 GB hard disk is the standard one, so we are gonna give 40 GB as a standard one. Again, I'm keeping all these things default because this is the best option I've found during an installation of any of the virtual machine, because this will not consume your complete size. The dynamic allocation means if the current installation requires only 2 GB, then it will only take up 2 GB only. And after that, as soon as you go or install any softwares, that's how it will dynamically grow. Otherwise, you can definitely go for fixed. But again, at this moment, it will completely consume 40 GB of your hard disk space. So we'll be going with dynamically allocated 40 GB hard disk. Click on create. And that's it. We have our virtual machine ready. Let's try to run or start the virtual machine. The first screen we should be expecting is Where is the bootable CD or bootable pen drive? Since we do not have it, we will be selecting an ISO, which I've already downloaded. And here is that box. I hope you are able to see it. I've clicked on this button. It's like a browse or optical disc selector. I do have multiple already, but let me again add it. I'll be selecting Ubuntu 18.04. Here is the same one. Let's choose, and I'm gonna start my virtual machine with the help of this ISO. Clicking on start button. Okay, in meantime, I'll try to answer the question, what is ISO? ISO is nothing but a CD image or a disk image, usually provided by vendor. Definitely, we can also create it using, there are different softwares to create it. And ISO is nothing but a CD or a DVD you can think of. This virtual image of a CD, you can directly use it as a backup purpose, because CD or DVD might get scratches, and due to that multiple error. So we usually go with ISO images. Again, ISO images are provided by the vendor, so we don't need to worry if the image will have any kind of vulnerabilities or security issues. So you can directly download it from vendor. So a format, it's gonna be ISO, and it will be provided by Ubuntu. Since we are currently installing Ubuntu, we can have Ubuntu's ISO image downloaded and we can use it. So basically ISO is nothing but a image of a CD or DVD. Yes, ISO image can be available for any of the operating system, and it's usually provided by its corresponding vendor or its respected vendor. In terms of Ubuntu, yes, Ubuntu main website can provide you with its ISO image. Likewise, if you go for CentOS, you can have option for downloading that particular CentOS image in ISO format. Windows, I'm not quite sure, because it may or may not be providing, but definitely we do get CD or DVD shipped on our postal address. We can buy it from store as well.
Hello, Chetan. You have a question from Miss Tanvi.
Yes, go ahead.
Um, you have pre-installed the Ubuntu system already. Like the question is, you
On this,
already installed the Ubuntu?
I have installed on different virtual machine. For testing purpose, I'm creating this new one. Am I audible?
Yeah, Chetan. Yeah.
Okay, so yes, I have installed even just 2 days back only. I've dual booted my Windows with Ubuntu because definitely Windows I do not trust much, but with Ubuntu at least I can have all my net banking and everything accessed from Ubuntu. And
Okay.
again, it's again
So
least likely
in
used operating system.
so
Yes, Mahesh.
initially it was Windows OS or Windows Ubuntu you have. Like you install everything in the Ubuntu itself. Like
On my main laptop, I had Windows as a primary operating system,
okay,
and after that, I have installed Ubuntu.
okay, great. Okay, so for installing, what is the source you have used for installation?
So source, it's a ISO image, same, just like the same one I've selected during this installation. Same ISO image and Rufus software.
Okay,
This
okay,
one,
okay. So
UFUS.
you download the OS and you will make the ISO image using RootX.
Correct. I'll make a bootable pen drive using Rufus,
Okay,
and I'll directly plug it into my laptop, and that's how I can boot
okay, okay.
with
So
ISO
it's like
image or
if
Ubuntu
somebody have
image.
a laptop with Windows or like parallel OS system, the first step, download the source and make a bootable pen drive using Rufus, right?
Correct. Yes.
Okay, okay. So and
Again, I would recommend not to do it at home directly because in case if you face any problem, you may delete multiple disks or your main existing Windows system, or it is possible that you may not able to boot at all. So it's
okay.
better to consult someone
Mm, mm.
before, or at least if someone your friend who has done it already, and then only do it. Or have a courage to search or Google for all the issues you can get during that installation. The issues might be different in certain scenarios because I have lost my, while I was installing that thing, I had lost a grub or a kernel. I basically lost grub, and that's why I was not able to boot it. So I did multiple things. Again, I had to boot from my USB, and I did run some commands, and that's how I successfully installed my operating system, Ubuntu. So yes,
Okay,
you may face similar issues. So I would not recommend directly doing it, but you can try in VirtualBox first, and once you're confident, then only think about installing or having a dual boot with Ubuntu.
okay,
The
okay,
installation gonna be very simple, so I'll just get started with this one, and after that I will answer other queries. So I've clicked on install Ubuntu.
okay. And Mr. Arjun, you can directly ask your question to Mr. Chetan.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Sir, while installing Ubuntu, should we specify that where space?
It depend on you.
Okay,
I usually do not do it because I do very simple installations. I like to keep things bit simple. So what I do is simply boot root swap. That's it.
swap and
Boot root
okay,
swap.
swap. Okay, sir. And the swap space should be double the RAM. Is it something like that?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat that?
Like, should we give the space? Like, should the swap space should be double the RAM? Is it anything like that?
Okay, I'll answer that in a moment. First, let me select the keyboard layout. I'm gonna just stick to default ones. I've clicked on continue button. Okay, regarding installation, there are pretty good options we have right now. First one is a normal installation with multiple softwares installed, like Office, some games, media players, etc. But usually these days we do not want anything of it. Max at we will use Office and a media player, which we can install it later as well. So I would recommend to go with minimal installation. That will simply provide you with web browser and basic utilities. Again, many of the utilities are not that quite useful, but again, at least it will not be installing any other softwares like games and everything who may just consume our hard disk spaces. Just go with minimal installation and do not select any of these checkbox so that installation time would be reduced. I'll be clicking on continue. It's currently stuck at this screen. I suspect this is due to lower RAM or hard disk I've provided to it. I'm sorry, the RAM and processor. Okay, till time I can answer your question. I would recommend to go with this particular link that is from ubuntu.com. And the question is about how much swap we should be assigning to any of the system. Boot root swap are going to be the basic installation methods, but again, swap can be customized, or it's better to say it's more like a RAM. Just like we have page files in Windows, we do have swap concept. It's similar to RAM and it is frequently used. So how much swap partition I would require in installation of Ubuntu or any similar Linux system? Answer is mentioned in this one. Usually in these days we do not do any hibernation, so we can directly go with this particular chart and you can refer maximum. So if you have, for example, 8 GB of RAM, then you will still need only 3 GB of swap partition. That is the minimum requirement. And that maximum, it can have 16 GB of RAM, that is double.
So, Mr. Arjun, are you okay with the
Yes,
answer?
commented it.
Okay, okay.
Yes, sir. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And Chetan, it was a good source for uh, getting information about the swap. It was a good one.
Thank you.
Chetan, in the meantime, when you're making something, maybe you can give a general comments about the installation and all those. Or else it would be like so mute session. And also students, you can participate with the interaction session. You can ask any silly questions. We are ready to answer here.
Yes, regarding installation side, we are currently stuck at this screen. I hope it will get resolved soon. I've clicked on continue button, but there is no progress. I've also tried click on tab button from the keyboard. It usually hovers to the next option, but it's not performing any actions right now. And installation is quite simple. Again, you will have multiple YouTube videos created for almost all of the operating system versions you have. So you can definitely refer to any of those videos. You can comment, or you can get back to us via Telegram channel or by email address, and we'll be more than happy to answer all of those queries. And do not worry if the query is too much simple or if it's too much complex. Just throw it out, because we are here to help you. Process. If this continue for next couple of minutes, we may need to start or create new.
Sir, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Tell me.
Sir, on mode, sir. It's a small dot. Like for hibernation, do we require swap, and is hibernation not possible in Ubuntu? Is it anything like that?
I'm sorry, could you please repeat that?
Like for hibernation, like system to hibernate, do we require more swap memory?
That is correct. For swap, for example, 8 GB of RAM. If you're turning on hibernation, then you will require 11 GB of RAM.
And sir, for normally hibernation won't be there in Ubuntu. Is it anything like that? We manually add that.
Yes, the hibernation option, usually we turn it on after the installation gets complete. So till time you can have 3 GB of swap, that is bare minimum we can provide. After that, you can convert it to 11 GB. You can turn on and off hibernation at any point in time.
And one more thought. You told about security between.
Hello, Mr. Arjun. You have a lot of background noise, and also we are.
Raining over here. That's right.
Okay. So go ahead. No problem.
Uh, Sir, one more doubt. You told about some security issues when you compared Windows and Ubuntu. Like, what are the security issues that basic?
I'm not getting exact question. Yes, I do mention about security. It just said that I'm more concerned with Windows. With Windows, as we already know, there are multiple viruses or releases out there. We do know that there are multiple antiviruses and similar solutions have deployed and present for Windows operating system, and that's why I'll simply always prefer to go with Linux even before Windows. Of course, for gaming options, we don't have any other option, but for any kind of net banking or any secure network or secure operating system, whenever we think of, it's always gonna be Linux. Because as comparison to the Windows operating system, we do have very less, I cannot say vulnerabilities, but at least less comparatively security issues than Microsoft. Yeah, and this installation is not working. I suspect this is due to hardware we have provided. So I'll be canceling this installation and I'll try with a new one with more RAM and hard disk. Just allow me some time. I'll free up my resources.
In the meantime,
If you have any questions, you can.
yeah, in the meantime, maybe we can allow Ms. Sanmupriya to ask a question. So, Ms. Sanmupriya, you can go ahead with your question. Hello, hello, Ms.
Hear me?
Uh,
Can you hear me, sir?
yeah,
Yes, I can.
yes, we can hear you. Yes, ma'am, we can hear you. You can go ahead with the question.
Sir, you mentioned some problems regarding dual booting, that you lost your Grub version. So, what are all the problems you have faced, or we will face during dual booting, sir? So, I have a plan to do dual booting. So, if you mention such problems, it will be helpful to me.
Yeah, that's a nice question. It's not only it's going to help you. It's like most of them have the same issue. So, Mr. Chetan, it would be nice if you give us such if you give views on it.
Okay, well, I cannot exactly generalize it. While installation, I can definitely tell you what I have faced an issue. And that is basically, yes, I have created a bootable pen drive using Rufus. I have used latest image Ubuntu, that is 20.04. That is the latest long-term support version or latest operating system we have. And I'd also prefer to go with LTS versions, that is long-term support versions. Previously it was 18.04. That's what I'm demonstrating to you. And the next one, or the current one, is 20.04. So while I was installing, definitely there was no issue, but at the end of the installation or during partition creation, I got one prompt and it was saying create a EFI partition. EFI partition is also again something or specifically related to a Linux operating system and a hard disk or a BIOS setup, we usually call it. So it's about BIOS setup and it's similar concept like EFI. So first of all, I've tried creating that EFI partition, which was not required, which I found out in later reinstallations. So yeah, that was the only main problem I faced. So previously I have created EFI partition. We get that option while creating manual custom installations. And just give me a minute. I'm trying to create new one so that I can creating new virtual machine. Oops. By the way, this is setting screen. Here is how we can increase or decrease RAM. I did give a best shot to create 096. I provided 3 core CPUs and with 4 GB of RAM. Next, I'll be providing a CD image. And I've clicked on start.
Hello, Miss Banu. Yes, you can go ahead with your experience. You can share your experience.
Yeah, because letting Chetan sir take his time, I just wanted to share a similar experience I had. So I introducing me, I'm a bioinformatics student, master second year from Pondicherry University. So recently, like in December, I had to attend a workshop, and then they have asked us to get our own laptops and Ubuntu installed in it, and then we were trying, like we along with like two of our classmates, were trying to install Ubuntu and. Coming my laptop was window, I mean my laptop was HP and the same thing, and then there was another girl whose laptop was based on a Lenovo system. So there were like I'm sorry, I am like very new to this, so I might not use the technical terms properly. So what happened was, um, we try to install the same, like we same thing whatever sir told, like we made the like pen drive bootable using Rufus, and then we try to install, and then it was working fine in mine and like other girl system who was using HP only. But then Lenovo's like laptop, there was some issue because the bootable options were different, and I think it will be different from system to system hardware when it is changing. So like the entire grep files, when we tried to first like install, everything was working fine. But when we were like making the version like from Ubuntu 16 point like something to 18, it was not, we were not able to get it, and all continuously what we got was grep files were not deleted. You have to delete the grep files before installing like the new ones. So we were like in the middle of the night, we were freaking out like what to do, and then we decided like let's take the system to the like those workshop people only and then do it. And then what he told was, you can always like install the new version the similar way, what we were not doing. So in a gist, what we were trying to do is Ubuntu 16.os, because we were like we were not able to delete the grep files. We thought like whole data was gone, but it did not happen when we tried to install the new version, and like everything was fine. So I just wanted to tell these might be like your problem also. So according to system hardware, you have to just check. Like there are many YouTube like videos also. We can check and then work accordingly.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing this issue, Banu.
Yes,
And,
thanks for sharing.
yeah.
I'll try to continue with installation first because installation
Thank
takes
you so
time.
much, Miss
And
Banu.
we'll be going with minimal installation. Okay, so here is the main thing. The screen will be different for each and everyone if they're installing on laptop directly. So for now, for me, since the complete hard disk is empty, I can simply get an option, or I can simply click on this first option, that is erase disk and install Ubuntu. Again, warning is also mentioned. This will delete all of your programs, documents, and everything, including your operating system. So whenever you're trying to install alongside your any of the operating system or even previous Ubuntu or any Linux operating system, make sure that you will not select this option. I would recommend to go with something else, or you will have multiple options added in this ones as well. Like for example, you will have an option to replace current Linux system or replace current Ubuntu if you have Linux or any Ubuntu installed, or if you have Windows installed, then you need to go with something else only. And that is how you can create partitions, a boot, root, and swap. And then you can simply click on install now. So I'll be currently going with erase all, because it's just a new virtual machine. I do not have anything in the hardware or in that hard disk, virtual hard disk, so I can install it directly. Regarding something else, I'll be explaining that in once the installation gets started. There is background noise. This is again warning that we will be erasing or making changes in the hard disk and its partitions. I can simply click on continue.
Again, Chetan, here is it okay to click the option erase disk and install Ubuntu if people are looking for dual booting?
I cannot go back now. So if you are installing on a virtual machine, yes, you can directly go ahead and hit that option because it's gonna be your new virtual machine. But in case of laptop or any hardware installation, or even in terms of Windows as well, if you want to dual boot even in virtual machine, even in your laptop or desktop, yes, in that case, do not select that option. Select only something else. That is the last option.
Okay, thank you so much, Chetan.
Okay, we have started with installation. Okay, so when you select something else, specifically in case of dual boot, or even for your fun purpose, if you want to customize your Linux in your own way, this is my recommendation. You can choose boot for minimum of 500, maximum 1 GB is also fine. Swap 3 GB is sufficient enough for 8 GB or even 16 GB of RAM. And then root, it's the complete disk. How much ever space is left, you can directly assign it for the root partition. How we can identify root partition? That is a single slash. In file system, we do write any files like this. So how we can call it as root home LLB. This root and this root is similar. We do have root as a user option as well. That is a user root. That is basically for privilege escalations, and we mainly use it for installation purpose. Again, you will not come across this scenario, but for file naming conversations, you will be using home, LLB, etc. But again, always remember this is a root partition. This is the same partition we are using here, and we are providing a complete hard disk. So with me, I had I think 1 TB of hard disk, but again in that only 40 GB space unallocated I could free up. So in that case, I have used boot as 1 GB, swap again 3 GB only, and root, it's the whatever is left, that was something like 30 GB or so. That is how you can configure your partitions. When you go to something else, you will have you can see there are some partitions mentioned as NTFS. The NTFS partitions are nothing but your Windows partitions. So whenever there is unallocated space, it will be marked as free space. It will simply write free space. You can click on free space. There will be a plus icon to select, and with that you can create your new partition. So I would recommend to go with this sequence. First one, get a boot, then swap, and then root. The installation might take a while, but the installation is, this is the only all about we have for installation. After that, it will prompt for reboot, and once reboot is completed, yes, you are good to use your Ubuntu operating system.
Chetan, why it is 3 GB for swap and 500 MB for boot? Like, why swap is that much important when we give 3 GB of space?
Sure, I can mention that. So basically, boot is everything about how system will boot up. When you have dual boot, even if you have dual boot, a boot partition will be very much specific to take care of all the booting sequence. Even if there is a problem in your operating system, even with a virus or anything, at most it will be creating a problem in other folders. And if there are any problem, or if there are any files get deleted, if there is any partition related problem or hard disk related problem, we as a Linux developers or users will always like to have separate partition created for boot and its related files, so that those can be simply secured or can be placed in a different partition altogether. Since we are maintaining in different partitions, no one will be touching those files intentionally. So again, this is more towards making your boot sequence safe and secured. It's not exactly secured, but at least it can be a bit safe, because even if you want to do it any changes, you have to do it intentionally. That's why boot, we have a separate partition, and since we have only limited files present in that, a 500 MB or 1 GB is sufficient enough. The next one is swap. Now you may have 3 GB RAM, 4 GB RAM, 8 GB, or at maximum these days is 16 GB for any laptop you have. So swap, simply you can compare its RAM present on your hard disk. Who uses swap maximum? It's the office applications, that is Word, Excel, PowerPoint. Whenever you are going to install any such applications, they need to be running on RAM continuously. If your RAM is low, then all those applications will be moved to swap partition, and that's why swap partition is required. And that is why we have recommendations on how much we should be assigning our RAM, the swap partition. You can simply Google for swap FAQ Ubuntu, and you will have this link. And the last one, was root partition. So it will be having a var, home, and each and every directory we see in any of the common Linux operating systems. So all the installations, all the user files are going to be stored in root partition. So even if there are any much more number of installation, or if there are any number of files in size are very much for any user, it will not be restricting because a single partition we have assigned it for root. Any more questions?
That's fine, Chetan. So students, if you have any question regarding that boot, swap, and root, you can directly ask here now. Okay, I think there are no questions.
Okay, this is Ubuntu Wikipedia page, and I just wanted to show you on how versionings are mentioned in the Ubuntu operating system. So like 14.04, 16.04, all this being our LTS. LTS is long-term support. So if you see release date, and if you compare it with the support end date, it's gonna be 5 years. For the minor versions like this one, it's gonna be hardly a few months, I believe. 10, 7, it's almost 9 months or so. So any minor release will have only few years of support, but for all the LTS version, it's gonna be 5 years straight away. So even if you want to install any software and support that software for long term being 5 years for now, yes, you can simply consider any LTS Ubuntu operating system for your installation. The latest one gonna be 20.04. Here you can check when this got released and its general support end date. You will receive security updates till 2030, so it's almost gonna be 10 years from now, and you can still maintain same operating system, same software, same versions, but only limited to security purposes. And that is why just LTS are very good.
Uh, Sir, actually, I have a question. Like when we turn on the system, we have this boot. When you have a dual boot system or something, we generally choose either Windows or Ubuntu, right? So for the fact, I know that we can always change the boot order. A lot of the times, lot of systems I saw like Ubuntu to be the first one. So I or whatever Linux systems to be the first one. Is there any golden rule that it should be or something like that? I may sound naive, but I just had a doubt.
No, that is fine. Allow me some time to search for that query. To change boot order. default grub. So I have searched for change boot order. I've got this from Ubuntu's main page. We do have a Grub Customizer to select what will be your operating system as a first. But again, I haven't tested these. I had, but again, that was like 4 to 5 years back. But yes, we can customize our Grub. We can maintain Windows as a first entry and then second as Ubuntu. That is possible.
Yeah, actually, I did that, but
Mhm.
like a lot of the systems, it's always Ubuntu, right? So my question was, is there any golden rule, or is there an or any what do I say?
No, it's more of a default because whatever the operating system you have installed at the last, that will gonna have first precedence.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. I got it.
Does anyone have any issues in network for downloading huge files? So if I want to download Ubuntu 20.04 and if my internet connection is not good, specifically if I'm using my mobile's connection, for example, I may get a call and that's how the internet might get disconnected in between. So what I can do is I can go for alternative downloads. I'm currently at ubuntu.com/download/desktop because we are required only desktop versions to download, and I can click on alternate downloads. Here you can simply go ahead with the BitTorrent. You must be aware of multiple such uTorrent or BitTorrent softwares which can download any of the softwares, and you can use those files so that even if internet connection is lost, you can still download it once it is back. Here are the BitTorrent link and you can simply download it. Past releases and flavor, everything is mentioned in alternative download. Any more questions, experiences?
Yeah, Chetan, maybe I can ask one question. I have a Windows laptop, but it doesn't have a network adapter. Do you suggest me to install the network adapter for the Windows system, or do you want me to put the dual boot with Linux?
Okay, what is the
Because I
purpose?
cannot find the specific version of the particular network adapter for that Windows OS system. So if I install the Ubuntu and completely erase the Windows, I can have the network adapter, and also I can have the good OS, right?
Depend upon your purpose. Well, currently I'm going with restart now.
Okay.
Okay, is my screen visible?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, I'm clicking on restart now button because our installation is successfully completed. Okay, coming back to you, Dr. Mahesh. Yes, what was your main concern? So is it about having internet connectivity on your laptop?
Main concern is I want to use my laptop for mathematics purpose. I have the Windows OS system in the laptop, but it doesn't have a network adapter. So is it okay if I completely erase the Windows OS and put the Ubuntu? So if I put like that, whether I will have a network, I mean functional network?
So when you mean to say network adapter, there are basically two things I can think of. First one is physical and second is virtual.
Mm.
If you have physical, then yes, it should be detected in your Windows as well. That should not be an issue.
Mm.
If only about the software is missing, then yes, we can probably look for that particular software then. We can definitely download its drivers from original vendor's website. For example, if you have Lenovo's laptop, then you can search in Lenovo's drivers, and that can give you a network adapter related drivers.
Okay, I see. But the problem is the particular Windows OS is completely outdated. So I couldn't find the appropriate network adapter version.
Okay, so does that mean it is working nothing? I mean, you are not able to access or browse any of the website?
Except internet, the laptop is functioning perfect, except internet.
Okay, maybe I would recommend to try Ubuntu first. I mean to say just make a bootable pen drive, plug it in, boot using that pen drive, and instead of selecting install Ubuntu, there is one more option called try Ubuntu.
Okay, what does it mean?
So with that, you can see a similar desktop and you can check if the network adapter is visible on this side.
Okay, okay, nice. Okay,
So do not go for install directly, just try Ubuntu. Select option as try Ubuntu.
okay, I'll do that. Oh, that will be good information. Thank you, Chetan.
Sure. And yes, everyone, we have completed installation. We have already logged in. I can always log out, log in. Okay, after installation, I was expecting this particular screen, which is just demonstrating on how system menu or close button and how you can switch your windows and what is the dock or the app button mentioned in here. You can simply click on next. Next. I don't want to send any information. Next. And done. And if you want to check what is wired connectivity, what are the network settings, you can go to wired setting and it will give you this particular prompt. Since it's a DHCP, I do not need to set any IP address. It will be taking up directly. And yes, that is it from my end. We have successfully installed Ubuntu today. And feel free to share your questions now.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chetan. And guys, do you have any questions? So maybe I can ask one question. So once you install, what are all the things that we need to concern about it? Like what are the things, like what are the steps that we need to do further? Like for example, installing the network adapter, or installing the updates, or some basic information.
It's nothing like that. There is nothing like you need to update software and everything. I use being a security concern, definitely you should be updating your browser at very basic. And again, you will get notifications from Ubuntu to your software update is ready. I can share my screen for a bit.
Okay.
Oh, I had one notification. Okay, here it is. Here is how you will get time to time software update instructions.
Okay.
And you can simply click on install now and it will be automated.
Okay. But even for these updates, first have we need to have all the network settings proper, right? We need to have proper
Yes,
network
correct.
settings.
Correct, yes.
Then otherwise we won't get even the updates. And also sometimes we miss some particular adapters. For example, sound adapters, network, also some basic softwares we need to install. But this is a very important thing. Like to get all the updates, we need to have a working functionalized networking internet connections.
True. For all of the operating system, even if it is Windows or Linux, they do provide basic softwares or basic drivers. But again, we need to check on case-to-case basics for your laptop on why it is not working. Every operating system is capable of basic networking, and that's how they can download their updates.
Okay. Okay. So thank you so much, Mr. Chetan. I hope
Thank you, Dr. Mesh.
students, I hope there are no doubts. If you have any doubts, you can ask in the Telegram group or Telegram channel, and we'll post the video as soon as possible. Okay. Thank you, guys, and have a nice evening. See you in the next section.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Mesh, for opportunity.
Yeah.
See you
Thank you.
soon.
Yeah.
Have a
See
nice
you.
day ahead.